A bad commute to me today would be stepping in the water that Simone slopped on the floor when she was drinking. That's a bad commute. I drove for 30 years back and forth to Halifax, and now being at home is where I'm happiest. Being with the dogs, that's even the bigger bonus.
We started the NSK9 season by introducing you to people who had left their careers to work with dogs. But of course, there's so many more opportunities to work with our furry companions. And so today on NSK9, we're going to visit some more people whose days go to the dogs and find out what motivates them.
I've always had dogs. Growing up, we've had dogs. We had a collie when I was very, very young, and for a grading present, I actually got a black Cocker Spaniel. Her name was Lady, and so we've always had dogs. I had a beautiful German Shepherd when I left home, so it just kind of seemed natural. And then there was a period where I didn't have dogs, and when I decided to leave the Red Cross as a volunteer, I was looking for something else to get involved with, so it was animal rescue. And that's where I reconnected with dogs. Not all the dogs we've fostered are here. We have 3 that are still waiting on the canvases, but that's what we've done in the past 17 dogs in the past year, pretty much.
Marcel had long dreamed of changing careers and working full-time with dogs. His work rescuing dogs across Canada only intensified that passion. Ultimately, it was a personal health issue that gave Marcel the push he needed.
We talked about it. I was on medical leave for about 16 months. I had an issue with my kidney, and I was off work, and I had planned on retiring at 60. And when I got my clearance medically, I thought maybe it's time to go sooner rather than later. So I wanted to still remain active. So this is what we opened.
This is Red Wolf Inn, a dog daycare and boarding facility in central North River, just down the road from Truro. One of Marcel's own dogs became the inspiration for the name.
Boy. Both our dogs are rescues, yeah. And Simone, she's actually the Red Wolf in Red Wolf Inn. She's a Red Siberian Husky. She's 8 years old. She came from Lac-Simone, which is just south of Val-d'Or, Quebec. We went in and did a spay and neuter program in a native community where all the dogs and cats were spayed and neutered. We took 133 dogs out that were basically unowned or surrendered dogs. She was one of them. 9 dogs came to Nova Scotia, and she ended up coming to stay with us for the weekend. And she's been here for 7 years.
That's a long weekend.
That's a long weekend, and you couldn't ask for a better dog. She has an aura about her in the daycare. I call her the eye of the hurricane, and my clients will attest to this. They'll be out running around, going crazy, and she'll be sitting in the middle, just watching things. And if it gets out of hand, in through the door, she'll trot and she'll start wooing at me. And said, better, get out here, come and have a look at this. They're doing something I can't, they won't listen to me, type of thing. And so she basically runs things outside.
With Simone working outside to keep things in check, Marcel still has a lot of work to do to keep the daycare running, and running the way Marcel feels it needs to be done.
Typical day is I'm up at 6:30. The dogs are fed by 7. We start with the cleaning, and more dogs start rolling in after 7 o'clock, and then just basically hang with the dogs, playing. Like I say, it's not a job. Of course, with every job, there's a little bit of crap. With this job,
literally.
This job is literal. There is definitely crap, and we try and pick up at least every half hour to an hour. We have dogs that come in that are Problem dogs, they do tend to want to eat poop. So you definitely have to be on, you have to be watching. And that's why, again, like I say, you can't have too many dogs because you'll get distracted and not be able to stay on top of stuff. And then you come in and drop the dog off and then leave. And I'll spend about an hour with the dog by myself. And then I'll bring my 2 dogs in and see how they get along. My former job was in occupational health and safety, and everything has a process. I am process driven. Some people would say I'm a type A. I would dispute that. My wife would definitely dispute that. But we have a process here that it's attached to our house. The daycare is attached to our house, so we don't want our house smelling like 15 wet dogs. And so we try to keep it clean. Some days it's a challenge. Rainy days it is, because it is fairly small. It's not a large area at all. But this is generally how we operate. The dogs are fed first thing in the morning. They're let outside. The floors are vacuumed and washed. Everything's sanitized. We do laundry once a day, in hopes that we can make it as clean and comfortable for the dogs. I guess I look at it this way: when people leave their dogs here, they're going away on vacation. And I like to think that their dogs are on vacation as well. And I think if you went to a hotel, you wouldn't want it to be stinky and dirty linen and all the other stuff. So as much as we can, because I mean, they are dogs and they dig and they get wet and stuff like that. But as much as we can, we try to keep it as clean as possible.
Marcel realizes the opportunity to even be able to own a dog daycare and work with dogs every day only exists because of how the role of dogs in people's lives has evolved over time.
Dogs are now part of the family. They are, in some cases, surrogate children. A lot of people don't have children, but they have dogs, so they want to make sure their dogs are well cared for. And it just, to me, it just grew from there. We talked about this, a friend of mine the other day, was that, I'm 61, and I remember growing up, our dogs never went to the vet. Our dogs never went to daycare. There's no such thing as a dog park. Your dog basically stayed home, and that was it. Now, you go downtown in Truro, and there's water bowls all over the place for dogs, which is good and bad, given the time of year, with the potential for kennel cough and whatever, but still, it's a great gesture. So it shows me that dogs have become far more welcomed in today's society. And to me, that's a good thing. I think they've always been man's best friend. I mean, not to be cliche-ish, but there is that for a reason.
The highest area of apocrine or scent glands in a dog is around the tail area and around the rectum. So that's their way of going and getting all the information, as they say, get the skinny on the dog. They'll tell what sex, age, what sort of health they're in, what kind of mood they're in. With the females and the males going over and tell them whether they're ready to be bred or not. So there's a lot of information in that scent that's coming out of that area, and that's why they always go there. In humans, our areas are growing and under our armpits where the scent is, so that's why dogs are always coming up and sniffing your groin.
You don't feed on those, bud. Then again.
My name is Brenda Jusko, and I own Fetch Inc., and agility is our main focus, agility in daycare, and basically have fun with dogs all day long. They always had a pet growing up, and then I was one of those children that was fortunate to pressure my parents to give me a puppy for Christmas. And they did that.
We don't recommend
we
now, just
do not.
for the record.
Now that I'm an adult, I do not recommend, exactly. So when I was 10, I got my first dog, started into obedience, and just got sort of attached to it. And in the early days, when agility started, I was there as a teenager doing it, and then it just has been part of our life the whole time until now. Now it's a career. So to be able to actually have my job as something that I love to do is fantastic.
Brenda's first love is agility dog sports. And it's a sport which has taken her all over the world.
Any breed, any age, any abled handler as well. So it doesn't matter age of handler. I've got retired folks playing. I've got young teenagers also getting involved with it. And the dogs as small as little Yorkies. I've got little 4-pound Yorkies that play the game, all the way up to the largest breed that you can think of. So it's to what level you want to compete. I've been doing agility for so many years, 30 years. And in the last 10 years specifically, the level of training, the safety aspect has changed so much. So equipment safety and the way we teach the dogs on all of the equipment so that it's safe. So you're building proper foundation, even if it's someone who just wants to do this one day a week as their kind of activity with their dog, maybe will want to compete locally or aspire to greater things. The way we teach them in the beginning, we take a lot more time, a lot more intense foundation, teach them about whole body working, not just jumping over a jump or how high can a dog jump. It's how to use their body. So with all of those changes over the years, the dogs are able to compete for longer and longer periods of time, which is fantastic. And there is actually 4 national agility teams for 4 huge events that happen in Europe. So for 4 years in a row, I was very fortunate to coach Team Canada. So we've traveled to Italy and the Netherlands and France and England, and fortunate enough to have one of my own dogs on the team for 4 of the trips. So it's quite something, and it's so neat to see the relationship and the job that we do with our dogs here is done all over the world. So you meet people from all over the world. Every country you can imagine is there and doing the same thing that we love to do. And it's at a very, very high level of competition. I mean, it's incredible to see what some of these people are able to do with their dogs. And it's fascinating to travel and see wonderful places of the world and to have your best friend with you. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing, yeah. And Europe in general is so dog friendly. I mean, we arrive with a team and we want to go to a team dinner. Our dogs are welcome, and they're welcome under the table in the restaurants. It's just a given. So they really, you truly can travel the world and travel with them as part of it. So it pays to have well-behaved dogs, and the time you put into it is what you get back.
Brenda's knowledge of agility and obedience training has made her very well respected. But she quickly realized it would take more than that to realize a career working with dogs.
The daycare was something I quickly realized that I needed to do something else other than just teach agility to pay for the land that I want to do agility on. So to have that much space, to have over an acre in the city, in an industrial park, there's not enough classes in the world I could teach to maintain that. And 15 years ago, daycare was just starting, and it was becoming something new and interesting. And it piqued my interest, and I realized the time and the relationship I have with my dogs is something that I could share with many other people. So our clients, typically, I mean, there's of every spectrum you can imagine for our clients, but a lot of them are a couple or 2-income family that don't have any children. And their dogs are their kids, and they want a safe place for them to go during the day. They want to know that they're going to be well looked after while they're at work. It helps energy-wise, all that kind of stuff, if they have, really active dogs and they've got a busy week ahead of them. So daycare fills a lot of that, and it allows us to spend the day with many, many dogs.
Far from the rural environment of Marcel's Red Wolf Inn, Brenda's Fetch Inc. is located in the heart of a city industrial park, a location which comes with practical and training advantages.
We don't have to worry about any noise issues or anything like that. When dogs are having fun, quite often they're barking. So, in a residential area, that might be a problem for neighbors and things. And it's actually very good proofing for the dogs to hear all those different noises going on. It prepares them to be able to do the regular thing they can do in class out somewhere else if they're going to go to a competition or something. And we've got a big 18-wheeler pulling in beside with, its reverse beepers on going. So it's noises you're not going to have just walking down the street.
In the shadow of 18-wheelers in an industrial park, From the crack of dawn until late in the evening, under lights covering the agility field, Fetch Inc. is busy, operating in many ways no different than a child's daycare.
So we have a structured day. So the dogs come in at whatever time they're going to come in the morning, and everybody is out for group play outside, making sure everybody potties and all that kind of stuff. So the mornings are spent that way. Some will curl up and have a nap somewhere and then get up and interact again. And then around the noon hour, we do nap time. So for the dogs that are able to be crated, they're crated. And we give them lunch at that time as well, so everyone gets a snack at that time. And they need a rest. They need a downtime before they get back up again in the afternoon
If they
and
were
go.
home alone, they would
They'd be sleeping
get up
most
on
of the
couch
time.
and
Yeah.
take a nap and so on.
Exactly. And then they're ready to go in the afternoons. And we're just out there with them. And they choose to play. In the summertime, it's hot. We've got the sprinklers going and the kiddie pools. And they're in there bombing around.
So it's a lot like a kid's daycare.
It really is. Yeah, exactly. We don't involve any toys or anything like that. You have to be mindful. They are dogs at the end of the day. So we want to make sure we don't have any behavior issues or anything like that. So if you keep the place pretty much neutral, then you're good to go. So it's a great environment for a young dog to grow up in as well, in a good daycare, where the dog's behaviors need to be appropriate, and myself and my staff are there at all times. And we encourage the dogs to play and roughhouse and run around, but we never really let anything escalate too excitedly.
Evolutionary-wise, it makes no sense because usually that's where the parasites are. But they seem to get a taste for it, and there's some dogs that like it hot, coming right down the pipe, and there's others that'll eat it cold. It's a very, very common behavioral problem. I don't know if they're trying to mask other people's scents or remove them from the area. I don't think anybody knows what the right answer is.
I think a lot of people love dogs, and they look at people like you and they think, wow, that's my
Totally.
dream. I get to play with dogs all day.
Exactly.
It won't feel like work, but it is
Yeah,
work.
yeah, 100% work. And, there's attachment to it. So there's emotional attachment to the dogs and to your clients and your students. And so you have many aspects. I almost often feel like I'm a bit of a therapist too, because everybody brings their emotions and brings whatever's happening in their lives to dog class. Dog class is usually an escape for people. So you kind of, I wear many hats, let's say, but it's enjoyable.
So tell me what life is like in the run of a day running an operation like this.
Basically, you are tied to the daycare. If I'm not here, my wife's here. That's the way we run it. There has been 1 or 2 occurrences where we had a medical situation where the dogs had to be kenneled, and I had to look after the dog, and it was nothing serious, but it wasn't a vet. I had to run to the pharmacy to get some bandages. I thought I had. But it's busy. The days are not really long because I used to drive to Halifax every day.
Running a dog-related business is work. There's no
come.
two ways around that.
Simone. Come, King.
But Marcel doesn't
Okay,
have the
good
commute
boy.
anymore, and both Marcel and Brenda get to spend their days with dogs. As important, they both offer services in a way they want their own dogs treated. Because for both Marcel and Brenda, their dogs do attend their daycares.
And so we treat everyone else's dogs the way we want our dogs to behave. I don't want my dogs jumping up on me. So we don't permit that. We just don't encourage it, first off. We ignore it if it happens to us. And typically, a lot of the behaviors, if you ignore them, they won't repeat themselves. Dogs will repeat something that is rewarding in some way. Jumping up is a big one for that. So excessive barking, too. You're not going to just let the dogs bark. Even though we're in an industrial park, I still don't want to sit there and listen to it myself.
I've always found a little odd is some of the daycares you win, and you win, there's an entranceway, they greet you there, they take the dog, and there's a closed door. Well, I've always wondered what was behind that closed door, and as you know, you've come in here, And I gave you pretty much the same
An
tour
open book, yeah.
as what any client has. This is why we put the dogs outside when we have assessments and clients come in, so they can actually see, they can smell, they can go look around.
We want the dogs to engage with each other and not necessarily with us. We're kind of like supervisors in the play yard. So that's the behavior that we want. And same with dog-on-dog behaviors. If there's things that aren't positive behaviors that are happening, well, then we interrupt and we just stop them from happening. So it's a very good question, because not every daycare, again, is created equal.
Maybe Brenda and Marcel happened to catch a rising trend in dog businesses with their timing. But they never would have succeeded without an honest passion for dogs and a strong desire to find a way to work with them every day. 15 years ago, people would have laughed at the idea of a dog daycare.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we were definitely on the start of something new and wonderful. And now it's just, it's grown so much. I think, when we know it's a dog's birthday, for example, well, it's a free day daycare for them on their birthday. But often people now will bring us a doggy appropriate cake. And so we do pictures for their birthday. We put little party hats on them. They have their cake or cupcake or whatever it is, and you get to celebrate their birthday. And so that's just something extra we do for the clients, and they get to share in those moments that they maybe not, wouldn't have been able to do themselves or think of. So we like to do that.
To host a birthday party with all the dogs' friends.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
The daycare is probably the right place for that.
It is, absolutely. That's right.
I'm not sure I want that in my house necessarily.
No, and I don't either. Yeah, exactly.
It's a labor of love. We're small. We don't ever want to be big, and we have a niche, and that's what we try and grow on. I'm still looking at probably 6-8 years that I would, and that would put us into about 10 years running, which is a lot longer than I thought. Actually, when we opened, I didn't think we'd last the first 6 months, because I think for 3 months we might have had 4 dogs in, and at this point I think we're at around 193 clients.
It's very rewarding for us as well to have, the dogs are always happy to see us, kind of thing. So it's kind of cool to go to work and always be, greeted with licks and happy smiles and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where the daycare started, and it just grew from there. And now it's, it's basically the main thing that we do out of Fetch, other than classes in the evenings. It's a booming business, so we're doing something right along those lines.
This is not a job. If anybody tells you running a doggy daycare is a job, they're not in the right profession. Because, like I say, every one of these dogs are like our grandchildren. We spoil them rotten and then send them home. You there, Moni?
Visit us online to tell us your dog stories for possible inclusion in future episodes. And don't forget to share photos of your canine friends on social media with the hashtag NSK9.
You're silly. All I can tell you is, folks, watch what you leave laying around that your dog eats, because it comes out at some point. And some of the stuff I found out in the yard is rather embarrassing. And I think we'll just probably leave it at that. It's probably a PG-13 show. But so that's kind of unique too. What goes in most of the time comes out, and so it's pretty interesting.
Next time on NSK9, we get our brushes ready, dress to the nines, and strut our stuff as we visit the dog show circuit in search of the coveted Best in Show.
So what you saw running around the ring was the herding group. So all those dogs won their breed. So she won Shelties. So she beat out the other 6 dogs. So she was best of breed. So what you saw in there was all best of breed dogs. And then what they do is they compete for 1 to 4, and that's where the judge will place them. The best one, which was the Border Collie, she was the best of the herding breed according to that judge.